Well, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Is nighttime. I'm gonna pick the right time.
That's right. We got a little late night action going on this week. Um, where are we? Post week 2 preseason. It is a third Tuesday evening. Good lord,
Oh yeah.
and we have got some NFL to talk about. Obviously, we've had some decisions be made, some controversy to be had, and some headlines that you don't think you'd see, but you're really not that surprised to see. So, without further ado, Brooks, I think we should just jump right into it.
Welcome to the greatest podcast on earth. Nothing agreed. We have a great show for you tonight, so stay tuned and buckle up.
Yo, 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 yo. Should we welcome you back to another episode of Nothing Agreed? Back with the boys today. Baron.
What's up?
We are there. I feel like we are there. We're almost there. The first thing I gotta ask you is how you doing?
I'm good. Life's about the same. Now
You know,
that
I
I'm.
have I have a little rant to go on for a
Oh,
second. That's
perfect.
non-NFL related.
Let's hear
So
it.
I have been drinking a lot of water, right?
Good.
I've been doing this for like since the summer, like start of the summer. I've been drinking a lot of water. I try to hit my gallon a day. Now, there's this Odell Beckham Jr. tweet from maybe a decade ago, which is water tastes weird. Which, first of all, is not right. I think that's a horrible take, and you need to check the germs in your mouth. I think water tastes weird. But what I will say about water is sometimes it not stale is the right word, but it gets boring and repetitive. Whoever
Mm-hmm.
created these water tasters are not artificial sweeteners but like these like different ways that you can make water taste different, they are so meta. I do it for like one bottle a day, but like I'm drinking water that tastes like lemonade. Like it's like so addicting. Like I'm literally like because it tastes like lemonade. Like I have a
Okay.
raspberry lemonade, I have a
Okay.
regular lemonade, like
Okay.
mango. Like it's so gas. Like whoever created that, kudos to you because you've been making me drink my water.
Damn,
So
we need a sponsorship, is what it sounds like.
that's what we. I'll sponsor them immediately because the biggest thing in sponsorship is like, oh, do you use our brand? Yeah, I use your brand. Like this is amazing. Like, this is like crack, yo.
Now, well, speaking of crack, we're that much closer to week 1 of NFL action, and you know it's going to hit like crack. So, as we lead up to get to the glorious beginning of this NFL season, we still have preseason to go through, obviously. You've got rookies trying to prove themselves, position battles, who's going to start for who, trying to avoid injuries, but those always happen. Do a quick injury update. Jamar Chase went down with a fall today, actually. I think all signs point to him being okay. There was another injury I feel like I'm forgetting about, but I saw it.
I think Jamar's kind of the big one. So
That was the big one. I did see one that someone was going to be out for a
we didn't
while.
talk about Ashton Genty the
Yeah,
last
that's
time
true. I think that's the one I was
from our
looking at.
podcast.
I think he looks to be on the mend. I saw a report today that says they're very optimistic, avoided something scary and long term. But yeah, again, I don't think he is primed for a big year too, but this team's not built to really prove anything, so there shouldn't be a ton of pressure on him to win a rushing title unless he wants to get that contract negotiations kind of leverage go up. Speaking of contract negotiations,
Whoa,
oh yeah, you love these pivots tonight.
these are good. This is good right here. This is Dwayne Wade pivots.
Exactly. Joey Porter Jr. having a little contract dispute down over there in Pitt, or I guess up over there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
That would not be a good piece to lose right now if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, Brooks. I know we talk a lot about this team, especially in the last couple of seasons, obviously with the whole Mike Tomlin being fired saga, bringing in Mike McCarthy to appease your retiring 48-year-old quarterback. He's not actually 48, but he's old as hell. How much does he have left in the tank? We'll see. The
1 year.
Pittsburgh
1 year.
Steelers, yeah, no, we know. But how much physically does he have left in the tank? Is
Yeah.
there anything? Because I really don't think so. we'll see what the Pittsburgh Steelers looks like. Again, this is a team whose wide receiver 1 and 2 is DK Metcalf, who's about to be 30 years old, and Michael Pittman, who's already 30 years old. I forget, who's the running back again? Jalen Warren? Is that who's the lead back? So maybe he can put on a show. But again, I think the overall theme of this team is it's old. A lot of their key players are old. We talked about the offense. Let's look at the defense. T.J. Watt, Jalen Ramsey, Cameron Hayward. Those are guys that are probably on the last couple seasons of their NFL careers. So you don't want to lose a young star in Joey Porter Jr. That's really going to set the whole team back unless you do go ahead and hit the complete rebuild button. That's something we haven't seen the Steelers do in about over a decade. If not longer than that, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird right now for the Steelers. Obviously, losing your long-term head coach who'd never had a losing season, but still was not good enough to get you to where you want to go ultimately. Did one time, but hasn't done anything really outside of that. And then, you're kind of at this period where all of your really good players are phasing out for age, and we'll see what happens. But definitely a contract negotiation to keep an eye on. Where would Joey Porter Jr. end up? What does his trade value look like?
It all goes down mostly the same route to me. He's going to get his money. It's just going to happen, right? But, you put it best, is that this team, I feel like Joey Porter Jr. is always there. Like, not in terms of, like, he's always in Pittsburgh, of course, but, like, he's always making plays. And with his team getting older and older and older, I think they're going to pay him, but I think it could be next year where it's like teams were shopping around looking at Joey Porter Jr. because they need a corner, and Pittsburgh's probably going to hit the hard reset button because all your aging experience, and quite frankly, they need to hit the reset button. This team, Baron, you know my philosophy. You're either rebuilding or you're championship contending. You can never be a middle strayer. And to me, they're the perfect middle strayer for a while now, for a little bit. I mean, since maybe 2018, like that one really good year where they were number 1 seed and they didn't go through. Maybe since 2018, that year, that was their last year. They were really like the team. It feels like, I guess COVID when they went 11-0. But then they really just fell off into the second half of the season. Like, this team needs to hit the reset button. In my opinion, Aaron Rodgers not going to lead us to a Super Bowl. If he does, I don't know what I'm going to do, but he's not going to. So, you're right. Joey Porter Jr., we'll see. He'll probably get his money, but I think that's a next year thing, Baron.
Well, the question becomes, what is he asking for? Because we all saw Devon Witherspoon. He was extended this past week. I don't know if we talked about that or not, but he has become the highest paid cornerback in the NFL. And obviously, the NFL is a giant market. There's politics. There's money involved. So you're going to want to – I'm guaranteeing you his camp's demanding more money than that. And
I think they're going to aim close to it. I don't know if they're going to go more, but – I think they're going to – I mean, that's usually how the market goes. They usually try to top it.
I think you said it best. He seems to be all over the field for the Steelers. I feel like if you watch a Steelers game and you see a pass deflection or you see a tight coverage, it's usually him that's making that play. Again, I think I don't know what his stats are off the top of my head, but I know they're good. So I think if you're his camp, you go to the Steelers and say, look, he's younger. He's making the plays that probably aren't the same level as Devon Witherspoon, but again, he's on a Super Bowl winning roster. Joey Porter Jr. is not. There's not as much coverage on what he does for the team. I mean, he has the tape, he has the stats where I think he has the leverage to demand that kind of money. And again, if you're the Steelers, not really infamous for paying their players like that. Yeah. So I mean, you say this is a saga that's going to go like they all do. I don't know. I'd be interested. Again, this is a team that is probably looking beyond the horizon past this season saying we do need a rebuild. Maybe a team wants to give up a first for him. Maybe a team wants to give up a second where they think that's valuable. Again, if you're hitting the hard reset button, what's the point of extending this guy when by the time your team's actually going to be competitive, he'll be on his way out? So there's definitely some thought to maybe moving off of him. So I think this one is a lot more interesting to watch than the next one I'm about to talk to, because the next one I think is just a whole clickbait sort of debacle, but that would be
Jump right into it. Yeah.
that would be Christian Gonzalez apparently not being happy with the way his contract negotiations are going. And that's a corner who definitely does have a very legitimate argument to being the next highest paid. So, obviously, you're the New England Patriots. You just came off of a Super Bowl loss. You made a big trade in the offseason. You're trying to get back to where you were last season. So, obviously, the smart move is to not get rid of your best defensive player, arguably your best player. So, where do they go from here? Obviously, they have some money. They should have the money to kind of make some wiggle room work with that. I can't think of any players they have on huge contracts outside of taking on that A.J. Brown contract. Drake May hasn't been extended yet, but that is also on the horizon. And the way he's been playing, again, let's play devil's advocate. I don't think you and I both think this will happen, but let's say he has another All-Pro year and another MVP winner or runner-up. He's going to be demanding the highest paid quarterback money, and that's not cheap.
Even then, right, you don't need these all-pro years. You just need to be a pretty solidified quarterback, and you're going to get paid that money. I mean, we've seen contracts on these guys who aren't the level of Patrick Mahomes, and they're going to get not a crazy 10-year deal, but they're going to get the annual AAV of contracts like that. So, yeah, he's gonna get the bag, but they need to pay Christian Gonzalez.
Christian Gonzalez will get paid, but I think the question for this situation is more of what does that leave the Patriots team afterwards? Because again, this is a team sport. This is the ultimate team sport. This isn't football. This isn't basketball. This isn't hockey. Hell, this isn't really even baseball where the salary cap doesn't matter. But again, I think the best way you compare this isn't basketball. Like one player is not as impactful in football as it is outside of maybe a couple positions as it is in almost any other sport, right? Obviously, you have a basketball player, give him the super max. Maybe he deserves it, maybe he doesn't, but you still pay that guy. He has the talent to kind of be your team. You put guys around him on smaller contracts, and you can see production. You might not win it all, but you're definitely going to be competitive. And yeah, you're going to win games. You're going to be the better half of the team. You're going to get all the good things that those organizations want, right?
Yep.
Football is not that way. You tie up most of your money in a couple of players. The rest of your team's not going to be very good. You have to – I think football is the one sport where I think from a general manager standpoint, every other sport, like obviously you want to be competent, you want to be aware, and you want to be thinking of the future when you're spending your money and who you're spending it on. But I think in football especially, you have to be so precise. You have to be so selective, so careful because, I mean, let's say a couple $7 million to the wrong player, that's one or two contracts you might miss out on. That's some depth you might miss out on, and that could be a game. So we'll see what that leaves the Patriots. Obviously, you want to, if you you're going to have to pay Drake May. You know what kind of money he's going to warrant. You want to get that contract done before other players around his age. Let's look at Caleb Williams. Let's look at Bo Nix, maybe even Jaden Daniels if he has a bounce-back season. You want to get that contract done before them because with every contract that gets signed, your guy's going to want more money. More money is less room to sign depth, and depth is not no depth is not how you win championships. So we'll see what that contract looks like. We'll see what that leaves with the Patriots spending-wise as they compete to get back to the Super Bowl. Now,
let's get into the meat and bones.
Yes. Let's talk about some camp battles.
Yes.
Obviously, the Colts. We'll start with the Colts. Daniel Jones will be their starter, but Anthony Richardson is going to get one last chance to kind of prove himself. Obviously, this isn't for any starting position. Again, unless maybe he throws for 600 yards and 8 touchdowns, then we might have a question on our hands. But no, ultimately, he gets one last chance to prove his trade worth, right? Is he going to play good enough where a team wants to take a chance on him? Say, maybe the New York Jets. Maybe, I know Geno Smith had a good preseason game, but again, this is a preseason. We don't buy into it that much. So yeah, maybe the Jets take a look at him, look at their quarterback room. They know what Geno Smith is. He's not leading your team to anything spectacular. Maybe they aren't too satisfied with what they have in Cade Klubnik. Maybe they want to go Anthony Richardson if the price is right. I'm trying to think. Maybe your Falcons. Obviously, we've all seen the Tua Tagovailoa tape, and I don't think in good faith any general manager or head coach can put that on the field. Maybe they aren't happy with Michael Penix either. Maybe they want to bring in a guy if the price is right. Maybe to take a look at those guys. Obviously, that would be a long saga because training camp's over. Now we're in the regular season. There's not a lot of time to really have position battles and win them out. But if he plays well, there's definitely some logic. There's definitely some justification to a team that may not be completely solidified with their quarterback room to make a move for him if the price is right. What do you think about that? Do you think he's got a chance to kind of play his way off of the Colts?
I think he does. Now, I kind of want to pivot this for a second because I don't want to pivot too much. We know Daniel Jones is going to get the starting job, right? There's no wraps on that. I think Riley Leonard's going to be QB2, right? I think Riley Leonard's going to be that QB2 to where Anthony Richardson kind of needs to pivot in his career to be a backup somewhere in a place, like you mentioned a couple names, now the Falcons being one of them, where a place that a QB isn't really solidified. I kind of want to pivot this for a second. Baron, if you were to grade Anthony Richardson on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you grade Anthony Richardson? Or maybe a tier or 1 to 10?
I would put, if we went tier-wise, I'd probably put him right around that serviceable range.
Serviceable?
Because I think he's one of those talents where, yeah, you look at his athletic ability, it's crazy. He has a great frame. He's quick, he's fast, and he can break tackles. He'll run you over. Like, he is a very good athlete. Now, I think you put him in the right system. I think you put him with the right players. I think you can scheme up drives. You can scheme up scenarios that utilize his talents and optimize what you have for your team. I think a good example for this, and I'm not saying this would work, but again, we'll go back to the Vikings. Like we were saying all last season, this team was just a quarterback away. I think Kevin O'Connell's a very good head coach. You put Anthony Richardson in a room with a guy like Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, even Aaron Jones or Jordan Mason. If you're able to scheme plays where he can get the ball out fast on the short throw, because again, I think if you have him throw it short, you throw it deep, those are his strengths as a passer. He's not going to dissect the defense from the pocket. He's not going to make those hard throws over the middle. I think you throw it quick or you throw it deep. He's one of those quarterbacks, or he's running. And I think if you design an offense to kind of utilize that, it'll be successful if you have the right players in place. But on the flip hand, I think if you and again, I think this was part of his downfall with the Colts. I think they just kind of were using him not as a player that he is, right? It's kind of that RPO game. I don't know if he's really built for. Again, I think one of his biggest criticisms, besides his inconsistency with throwing the football, is his ability to like look at a defense and make the right read. And that's, if you can't do that, like the RPO is not going to work. Play action's not going to work. And I think that's a lot of what Indiana likes to do. I think if you look at their offense with Daniel Jones, you see a lot of RPOs with him and Jonathan Taylor. You see a lot of those. You kind of are hoping or trusting Daniel Jones to look at the pre-snap lineup and make the right decision. It's not an offense that was catered towards Anthony Richardson. And I think that's been his downfall.
Do you think Daniel Jones is going to be good next year?
I don't think he'll be any better than he was last season, but I don't think he'll be that much worse.
I feel like I have a feeling that Daniel Jones might not be the guy he was last year. And it really puts a weird kind of feeling in my stomach because what if they decide to keep Anthony Richardson and then something crazy happens, right? Remember Daniel Jones went down last year with that injury, right? And Riley Leonard was the guy but then he had some wishy-washy moments. He had some good moments and some wishy-washy moments. And so maybe they keep them. Maybe he keeps them after all, right? And that becomes a QB battle if that happens, right? I'm wishing Daniel Jones all the best luck and all the health. But we saw one good year from Daniel Jones. He's got to make it a second. And also, he's coming off a very bad injury. I don't know. Maybe I think he's going to stay on the Colts. I think he is. Other places, I don't know if they're going to take a flyer on him. That's what I have to say. But we all know Daniel Jones is going to start there.
Yeah, well, this will be his last chance to prove himself.
Last chance, you.
And yeah, we will see what his future holds. Obviously, there could be a scenario where he does play well, the Colts want to hold on to him. A good quarterback goes down in the season, and the team's on a good trajectory, so they take a look at the field of backups and decide that that's their best option. They part ways with a 4th-round pick, and everyone goes home happy. So, I think there is a lot to play for if you're Anthony Richardson this upcoming week, and we will just have to wait and see. Let's all pray to God he does not stink up the bed. Speaking of stinking up the bed and the Colts, we're going to pick on your Falcons for a little bit. So I'd like to apologize. I know that I said that if you're the Falcons and you look at this quarterback battle, you want to go with the guy who's a little more experienced, who's kind of been a little more proven. I was wrong. You cannot in good faith put Tua Tagovailoa on the field week 1.
Correct.
I honestly wouldn't be mad if they decided to cut him before training camp ends because he is horrible.
Horrible.
His career's over.
It's horrible.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the clips from the Colts game. We saw the clips from joint practice. I mean,
Did we come on this podcast and talk about what the Colts reporter said?
I don't think we did. What is that noise?
That was me.
Okay.
That was me fixing my mic stand. Did we talk about the Colts reporter, what he said about Tua?
I think I'd like to hear it again if I didn't already before.
So, as we know, these are my babies right here. And pause. And I love the Atlanta Falcons to where, my algorithm will, of course, keep the Falcons. Let's just make this brief as possible. There was 2 tweets. One of them I need to find because I do not remember it. But it is from a very famous Falcons writer named Orlando Ledbetter.
Okay.
He is, one of the top guys when it comes to Falcons writing. If I need to find what he says about Tua exactly, here we go. Daniel Jones just tossed a nice 50-yard bomb to Josh Downs for the Colts. Falcons answered with a pick 6 by Tua Tagovailoa to Justin Wally. The Falcons answered with a pick 6 by Tua Tagovailoa. Yeah, that's an answer, all right. The second one is, I have to apologize. This is bad sourcing for me. I totally forget the Colts reporter's name. But he does a little 2-minute video, and of course, he's going to talk about the Colts. He's a Colts reporter. And he's talking about Daniel Jones looked really nice. Jonathan Taylor, the run game wasn't really working, but we're not really concerned about that. And then he goes, Tua has to be the worst thing I've ever watched.
Literally just boom
in there. I was like, yeah. He's like, he is so bad at quarterback. He's the worst thing I've ever watched.
Yeah, bro threw it.
Twitter took that, and it became a Falcons video. So, yeah.
Bro threw in a fun fact.
The reason why it became the reason why Tua was signed, it's finally the reason was here, and this is what I was assuming. This is what I wanted. And it was that Tua was signed, okay, if Tua plays great, he plays great. But Tua was signed to ease Michael Penix back into team action, into full contact, because Michael Penix, his turnaround from full team activities would have been pretty quick to the start of the season. Michael Penix was just cleared yesterday for full team activities, so he's got about 2 weeks. Tua is so bad that the plans have been ruined. The plans have been ruined to where I think Penix is going to start week 1 now, but this is not a disrespectful thing to say. In that Colts game, Jack Strand, like you mentioned one time, and I was like, no way. Jack Strand was balling to where he's now getting team 2 reps. To where Kevin's the fantasy saying, we have to start looking at Jack Strand because Michael Penix might not be ready yet, and Tua is that dog. So, yeah, this is the Falcons' life now. Like, this is the life. So we'll see what happens as long as as long as Tua doesn't start.
Thank God for the Braves.
Yeah, the Braves I think might be losing right now. No, they're not.
Oh,
so
well.
they're tied.
Anyway, we'll talk about something a little more enthusiastic, a little more fun. I know you're sad.
Yeah. No, I love my Falcons. We can talk about my Falcons all day long. I think it creates good drama and storyline.
But we had a trade today. First one of the new season. Kayshon Boutte is on the move to, where did he end up going again?
Houston.
Hold on. Oh, okay. I was gonna.
My bad.
For a 7th round pick, and a safety who I also forget the name of. But I think the only thing that stands out to me, I don't know if you saw this on social media, but the internet has found the Kayshon Boutte #1 fan. There was a guy. I'll send you the video if I haven't. But there was a guy who found out he had one jersey in his closet hanging up, and it was a Patriots #9. He had a homemade. It was like a 6-foot like portrait that he made himself of Kayshon Boutte, and this guy was just devastated that his favorite player is on the move to Houston. Now, what does this symbolize for both teams? Obviously, the Texans are trying to load up in that wide receiver room. There's some injuries there. There's some uncertainty there. You bring in a guy who's been a reliable deep ball catcher, at least the past few seasons. We know what he was for Drake May. You're trying to give CJ Stroud some more deep options. Obviously, with Tank Dell, his uncertainty. And was it Higgins? Is that what his name is?
Jaden Higgins tore his ACL.
That he tore his ACL. He is out for the season. So Texans trying to bolster their wide receiver room. The Patriots trying to bolster their secondary. That is a point of their team that they look at and are not satisfied with. Two teams trying to make themselves better, getting ready for the season. We'll see how this plays out. I'm so sorry for the #1 Kayshon Boutte fan. You got a new wide receiver you can root for. If you want. I really don't know what to tell you at that point, but sorry to you. But yeah, we had a trade. That was about it. That's all I really want to say. Any thoughts?
I think it's a good trade. I talked about this with my Texans friend. Funny enough, yes, have one of those. I might have a friend for all 32 teams, so maybe. But I have a Texans friend. This was.
If you have a Browns fan, you're lying.
I do.
I'm just kidding.
I
know they exist.
I have multiple Browns fans.
If you have a Bengals fan, you're lying.
I do have a Bengals fan in my life.
Okay. Is he from LSU?
He is not. He's not.
Fair enough.
His family grew up in Ohio, so he was a Cincinnati fan.
These poor Ohioans.
I know, right?
Ohioans.
It's crazy. I'm trying to think anyways, I shouldn't. But
there's no way you have a Cardinals friend.
I do have a Cardinals friend.
Okay, you know what? I believe you. Let's move on.
I won. I can bring it up.
Let's move.
Yeah, he was telling me that he was happy for the trade because of the Jaden Higgins injury. It was a rumor at the time, and he was like, "If we can make this happen, that'd be nice." And they made it happen. So, yeah, I think it's a good trade for the Texans, especially because the wide receiver position, Nico Collins is gonna miss 7 games a year. That's just a fact.
I forgot he was out too.
So, Nico Collins is gonna miss games. Tore ACL. Tank Dell, how much legs does he have? You need more depth in that wide receiver room. That's all I was
going to say. He got shot. You can't rely on him.
Yeah, good trade. That's a good trade.
Definitely like that for the long run. But we'll move on. Another position battle. The Browns have decided to go ahead and name their QB1, and that will be the massage therapist himself, Deshaun Watson. Now, I am assuming you saw the press conference. I am assuming that you saw the backlash. I am assuming that you do not have good things to say about the Browns' decision to start Deshaun Watson. So I will go ahead and start, and I will say, yes, when you have a guy who comes up to the media and with the past that he has had, stares those reporters dead in the face and says, I don't know why they're booing me. It's not like I've really done anything that bad. Or I know they shouldn't be booing me for my off-the-field activity. So we already know that the thinking process isn't really there in his brain. The critical thinking doesn't exist in his brain. So how does that translate to the field? We will see. I'm sure we've all seen Browns training camp clips. They are not good, from the quarterbacks to the blocking to the receivers, but I think my all-time favorite was Deshaun Watson throws an absolute heater and caught the defense off guard. The only bad thing is he also caught his offense off guard, and that's when he's about to get sacked and just chucks a 50-yard bomb to absolutely no one in the deep field. So we see all these things, we hear all these things, we look at these things, and we ask ourselves, why? Why was Deshaun Watson named the starter for the Cleveland Browns going into week 1? And there's a few reasons I can think of. Number one, I think their first 2 games are on the road. I saw this theory online, so I will not take credit for it, but their first 2 games are on the road. He gets 2 games to kind of prove himself to the fan base, win them back. You go out, win those games, you play like the quarterback you once were, you come back to Cleveland, all is well. Those games don't go well, you guys get crapped on. Shedeur Sanders is starting by week 3 for the home opener. Another theory I saw is, again, this team is trying to put themselves in a position to rebuild for the future. Obviously, I think if you looked at any serious Cleveland Browns fan and asked them which one of these guys are going to be your quarterback of the future, they would tell you they're putting a gun in their mouth. So they need a quarterback. The only way you get a good quarterback is by getting a low draft pick. Maybe Deshaun Watson is the better play to make sure you lose games. Yes. That's where my brain goes. Other than that, I think the only other real reason is you look at the money you're paying him, and you can't, in good faith, as an owner, as a GM, although I think the GM and head coach that made that trade are both gone, but you can't look at the people that you're trying to convince that you're a serious organization and say, we're going to sit the guy that we're paying $250 million for the guy that makes like $2 million. The politics, right? The money, the politics that comes back into play. I think it's a mix of 1 and 2, or 2 and 3. I really think if the Browns were that considerate of him winning the fans, he wouldn't be starting to begin with. So I don't think they really care about that. But what are your thoughts on that, Brooks?
I don't mind him starting, to be honest. I actually don't. I don't mind it. It does make me a little concerned with the direction. I don't mind a team trying to go out and give their veteran QB not a chance, but the reins to start a year, because you're trying to win football games, right? And sometimes the veteran QB is just, you give it to the older guy who's more experienced in the NFL, whatever. But if Shedeur is not starting by like week 3 or 4 and they're not doing well, I don't understand it. I think I personally, if they were saying I start Shedeur, I would totally be in support of it. I don't mind them starting Deshaun. It would not have been my pick. But even the own preseason game they played, Shedeur outplayed them.
Yeah.
So, it's getting a little grim out here. I can't lie.
Yeah.
Can't lie.
I'm glad you brought up the preseason game because, I think if not just a Browns fan, if you're a football fan, you look at that game, you look at the eye test, you look at the stats, and you're like, well, why are you going to name the worst guy the starter 3 days after? Because even with the post-game comments, it's really confusing, but I've always been of the opinion that, again, like you said, he's the veteran, he's making significantly more money, and there is tape of him in an NFL jersey being one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So in my mind, it was always Shedeur Sanders is going to have an insane camp to win that starting job, and I just don't think it was enough. But I do agree, despite the name of this podcast, I do think that we will see Shedeur Sanders starting by at the very least week 6. So, again, and that's to say Deshaun Watson is the same player he has been the past few seasons and that nothing crazy happens. So, this next segment, I'll let you do most of the talking because I really didn't know much about it until today, actually. So, 49ers, obviously infamous for their Super Bowl failures, for their banged-up teams, the legends of the past. Again, everyone likes to clown on the Dallas Cowboys for their playoff inability or their Super Bowl absence in the last 30 years. Well, the 49ers haven't won one in even longer. But they've made headlines in other ways this week, Brooks, and I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you. What would those headlines be?
Their owner got caught contacting prostitution. Got caught by an undercover officer, which I thought was hilarious. Also, the best part is somebody wrote an amazing headline. I forgot who it was, but somebody wrote an amazing headline because he was arrested in East Palestine, Ohio, and an actual news organization wrote 49ers owner arrested in Palestine. And I was like, this is the best headline ever. Like, this
so
is the best
good.
headline ever. Like, that was genuinely awesome. But to quickly get through, because I don't think it's much football news we talk about, but Jed York was arrested for contacting prostitution multiple times and caught by an undercover officer multiple times and has been arrested.
Oh,
I wanted to
boy.
get more details about it, but he pleaded no contest. He was sentenced to jail for 2 days and had to pay $1,100 in fines. To be honest, it's not a big deal because it's not like a big like fine and crime. But the funniest thing that came out of this was that he was arrested in Palestine, and that I saw a tweet that says, "My owner is so horny, he's good at trailing for trailer park puh instead of paying a left guard and a safety. Like he would rather pay for trailer park than a left guard and a safety." And that was the best thing I saw. So that's all I have to say about it. We can move on from that topic. We don't need to talk about it much, to be honest, unless you have any words.
Well, I was gonna look at the football side of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, how much of a distraction has this become? Is he gonna be forced to make any sort of sale? Like you said, it wasn't that big of a crime, but the NFL has been trying to, again, crack down and uphold its image of social justice and equality and all the standardability, equal for everyone, all that. So I'm interested to see if this does become anything bigger in terms of a forced sale. Obviously, that becomes a distraction. We know what the 49ers roster looks like. Again, very, very old. What do they look like? So I think the big storyline to follow is really, we know what happens. Where do we go from here? Does the team rally behind this? Do they buy into it? Do they kind of flaunt, or do they kind of sink because of it? Again, it could be a distraction. Obviously, I don't think reporters are going to be shoving mics in players' faces asking about, have you seen any prostitutes in the building? But we just don't know where this is going to go yet. And I think that is just something to kind of keep in the back of your mind as we watch these 49ers play this season. So, and yeah, we will see if a sale is forced. Now, we'll move on to the last thing for tonight's episode, the big meat, the big potatoes, and that is college football. Always seems to be in the center of our complaints. Always seems to be the problem starter between the world of football. And this latest saga is nothing short of what you'd expect. I don't remember the guy's name. He was Thank you. He was an undrafted free agent tight end. He was picked up by the Eagles, did not show well in camp, was waived.
Oh, so this is the Eagles' fault. This is the Eagles' fault.
Oh,
I'm riding with that.
Okay. He was waived from the Philadelphia Eagles for not being good, and then he was picked up by none other than the Cleveland Browns, right? One of the NFL's bottom teams, kind of a organization that's looked at as they need talent anywhere they can get it. And he was not good enough to make that roster either. They looked at him after 2 days and decided, nope, you are not going to cut it. Sayonara. So, where does a disgraced NFL player go from there, Brooks? Do they fight their way onto a practice squad? Do they go back to school, kind of use that name and finish their degree, get a good job, work hard? Do they kind of start a family, just kind of float into the real world out of the athletic life? Do they go off the deep end? Do they start trapping? Do they start doing drugs? All that stuff. No, there's actually a fourth option now, Brooks, although that option was only available for 3 days. But there was a fourth option, and that was to go back to college football. Now, since that whole thing started, both the Big Ten and SEC have come out and banned any pro athletes from returning to their universities for any sort of sport. That includes basketball, baseball, hockey, track and field, any sport. If you leave the university, you participate in a pro league of any sorts, you cannot come back, which I think is obviously, can't believe I have to say this, but the right thing. So where do we go from here? Obviously, it seems like this has been cleaned up pretty quickly. I believe the ACC is also moving to vote to do the exact same. You cannot let pro athletes come back to college, but the headlines were already made, actions were already committed, contracts were already signed. He had a deal in place to go back and play for his old college coach, Lane Kiffin, at LSU. And obviously, we will not see that happening because they are part of the SEC. They ban that. He cannot go back. But what if? Because, again, we saw this incident happen in college basketball last season with the Alabama player. I forget his name, but went to the league, was drafted, played in the summer league, was not good enough to make the initial squad, spent some time in the G League before he realized that he could make more money going back to college. There was a loophole. He went back to college, actually played a couple of games before the NCAA had to take action. And that was a very big deal back then. So, and I've always been of the impression that college football is a lot more likely to allow this sort of thing to happen versus college basketball, college baseball. Obviously, the sport makes more than those two combined. So, what would the fallout have been if he was allowed to go play at LSU, even for a couple of games?
Baron. Big Ten statement came out today earlier, and it says the Big Ten Conference announced that Tuesday, the unanimous adoption. I want to get the quote just so I don't miss anything.
Perfect.
Unanimous adoption of a conference rule to prohibit football players who have signed a professional contract or on a professional roster at any point or declare for the NFL draft as an underclassman without withdrawing from will maintain or from maintaining eligibility from athletic competition as a conference institution. The conference continues to evaluate potential rules or restrictions. I think they did come out with restrictions, but I didn't pick up on it. The SEC, Baron, they voted 16-0, the SEC, on this rule, which includes LSU. From the following, the SEC institution is not permitted to have an athlete who has previously declared for the NFL, NBA, WNBA, whatever, signed a contract with the NFL or other professional football league, NBA, G League, all rules, been listed on an NFL roster, right? Greg Sankey said that schools, this is for SEC, they have a full unlimited authority, which includes suspending a school from the competition. And it's also, in addition to that, league bylaws grant the commissioner powers to deem a player ineligible, suspend coaches of their pay and administrators, and even more. Baron, the SEC came out with a statement 3 hours ago. The hour before that, Schefter tweeted out, Daquan Wright has cleared waivers and will sign for LSU. The fact that we have to say nowadays that a player from the NFL cannot play college football is wild to me. That's how bad it's become. It's been bad, Baron, but it's so bad now that last year at the NBA was a problem. It's still a problem right now, and thank God they're closing it. But the fact that we've come here and say a player who has been on an NFL roster cannot play in college is a problem. Like, that's how bad it's been, Baron. That's how bad it's been. This sport continues to piss us off in this show. Week in, week out, we're talking about a new problem with college football and why we hate the sport more.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing you take away from this whole situation, because obviously crisis has been averted, action has been taken, the wrongdoing will no longer be happening. But why did it have to come to individual conferences coming together and saying, we're not going to allow this, right? Because, again, devil's advocate here. Let's say the Big Ten comes out, says we're not doing that. That's clearly not right. We don't want athletes going to the next level, getting that experience, getting that money, and then coming back.
Yes.
ACC follows suit, and let's say, hypothetically, SEC says, well, screw y'all. People want to come play for the SEC. We want them to come back if they want to. Now you have guys that have been in the NFL playing for these colleges. That gives them an advantage that ruins some of the integrity. But I think this all goes back to, thankfully, the SEC did make the right decision. Why wasn't this stopped at the NCAA level? Why does it have to take individual conferences saying, we don't want to do this. This isn't right. Why doesn't the NCAA come out? Because again, they make up all the conferences. Their say is the final word. Why don't their experts, their team, come together and say, yeah, we're not letting this happen?
I wonder if they could, because remember, you have all the. There's no like NCAA CBA, right? There's no NCAA negotiations. But remember, to bring it to an ACC level, remember when Clemson and Florida State were trying to leave the ACC because there's contract negotiations within the ACC as a conference because they weren't getting enough money or they didn't like the revenue splits. It's the same thing with that. There's an SEC contract, there's a Big Ten contract, there's an ACC contract. I wonder if the NCAA has like some regulation where I feel like they can stop that, to be honest.
No, they absolutely can.
I feel like they can stop that.
Well, again, because the NCAA, because these conferences are a part of the NCAA. They play for the NCAA. The NCAA's word is what goes at the end of the day. So I just don't understand why the NCAA can't come together and say, hey, again, this should have happened last winter when we had the whole basketball debacle. But I don't understand how that whole thing happens, this whole thing happens, and still we have to wait for the conferences to kind of come out and say, we're not allowing this. Because again, as it stands right now, an ACC, he could go play for an ACC team right now if they wanted him. They haven't passed that vote yet. He could go play for an FBS school if they wanted to. Sun Belt. Hell, he could play for a Big 12 or Pac-12. Oh, no, Pac-12's gone. A Big 12 team right now. They haven't agreed on that yet. So why is it not being addressed at the NCAA level? And I think that just kind of goes back to, again, our feelings about the NCAA ever since the reintroduction of NIL and the whole increased monetization of its assets, that being college sports. Well, why are we acting like this? Why are we? Because again, they know what's happening. They know that people are against that. It's obviously for revenue reasons. They want people to tune in. They want people making clicks about it. So, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Again, this crisis has been averted, but I just think it really says a lot about the NCAA's, not motives, but again, like I think if more loopholes are exploited, they don't really seem to care as long as it generates more money for them. And again, I think this is something that would have generated more money for them in terms of people just simply talking about it, because people will tune into that. People will want to see, oh, the guy that came back from the NFL, what does he look like? So, thankfully, this was averted. But, yeah, I mean, not a good look for the NCAA, in my opinion, that it has to come down to the individual conferences saying, hey, this isn't right. We're not allowing this.
Yeah, we're going to see what happens. I really don't have another opinion on it, to be honest, other than this shouldn't happen. I think you agree with that as well. I feel like, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we've kind of come to the same points of there needs to be a CBA. This sport needs to have some professionalization in some form or manner. Like, it's just a lower level NFL, to be honest. That's what college football kind of was before, without the pay and all this kind of stuff. Now they're treating it like a pro. They're treating it mostly, to me, like the MLB, right?
Yeah.
To me, it's an MLB sport because there's no salary cap, right? So teams can pay players what they want to get paid. There's these big bidding wars. That's mostly a multi-sport thing, but since there's no, salary cap in the MLB, you can have these big bidding wars, very big rosters as well. Baseball has big rosters. Like, it to me is becoming some weird kind of baseball techie sport. So there needs to be a CBA, and they need to regulate it somehow. There needs to be regulation.
It's just hard to kind of have a CBA when, again, we'll stick with football, but I mean, it'd be even harder for college basketball because a lot of those guys, they only are there for a year. It's hard to have any like consistencies or leadership consistency, and I think it would still be hard at the on the football side of things too. But no, definitely agree. There definitely, again, we've said this a lot, but there has to be some sort of attempt to kind of rein all this in, whether that's professionalizing the sport, because again, it makes so much money. I'd really be interested to see college football annual revenues compared to say NHL revenues. And I know the NHL is big, but like still, I would love to see those numbers side by side. Honestly, let's throw the MLB in there as well. So it's just like this is a league, like you said, that once this one thing that no one really had a problem with. And yes, you can't really sit there and say there's never been money in college sports. But now that it's as big as it is, there's got to be regulation. You can't not just go on without any regulation, because we see instances like you said. I mean, who's probably going to win the World Cup this year? Or not the World Cup, the World Series.
Probably the Dodgers, but the Dodgers aren't like a over 50% favorite. But the favorite is the Dodgers.
They're still the favorite. They have unarguably the best roster in the whole sport by a very long shot. Obviously, baseball and football are two different sports, but it just kind of feels like what college football is these days. You have very top-heavy teams, and I mean, what's really the point of paying attention? Because your favorite freshman player is gonna have a great season. You're gonna fall in love with him, and then he's gonna get offered more money to go somewhere else. So it's like, it's not the sport we grew up with. It's not the sport we once loved, and I really don't think we'll ever get back to that now that the box has been opened. But there's got to be attempts, right? Because you look at the product that's put onto the field, and it's just like. And I like to have this debate with people who say, oh, I like watching college football more than I like watching the NFL. Like, why? You know who for the most part, what teams are going to be in the playoffs. Like, obviously, Indiana was a very good story last year. They generated a lot of fans because they were not looked at to be a postseason favorite at the start of the season. No one looked at Fernando Mendoza at the start of the season and said that's going to be the number one overall pick. That was a college story that it felt like old, but like seriously, between Ohio State, between Georgia, between LSU, between Texas, I mean, I would be willing to put money down that 3 of those 4 teams will be in the Final Four this year. So like, what's the point of watching? Like, honestly, like what's the point of caring? Is again. I'm someone, if I like my team, I like my players, and I like them to stick around. I don't want like I said, I don't want my star freshman player to come in. Oh, like think about it from the smaller school perspective. Like, oh, this freshman quarterback who was a 3-star coming out of high school, he's on pace to be a top 3 pick when he's done. Oh, here comes Miami. They're gonna throw him a bag. He's gone. I don't care about him anymore. Actually, I hate him now because he's gonna kill my team next time we play. So it's like,
you would hate soccer.
Oh, I know. That's why I don't watch it. So it's like, well, what's the point? Like seriously, what's the point? Your players don't stay. You know who the good teams are gonna be. Like, yeah, you're cool. Your team might win a bowl game when it's all said and done by the end of the season. They might not. Like, that's really about it, unless you're a fan of one of like the big 6. So it's just like, who cares? At least with the NFL, like, yeah, you've had the Chiefs dynasty, you've had the Patriots dynasty, but like right now, who's going to win the Super Bowl this year? Obviously, the Rams are the heavy favorite, but heavy favorite usually doesn't always win it. I mean, the NFL feels really wide open right now. I feel like a lot of teams could, if things go their way, injuries go their way, and I think you could see I could see 13, maybe 14 different teams holding up a Lombardi Trophy by the end of the season.
Oh, no, I can't.
Maybe not that many, but at least more than 10.
No way. Give me 10. We'll end the episode right here. Let's do it.
Okay.
Let me 10 teams that you could see holding the Lombardi Trophy.
Let me pull it up. So obviously we'll start with the favorites. Obviously the Rams. Obviously the Seahawks. I'm I'm not going to doubt against it. I could see the Chiefs. I could see the Broncos. Then I'll go Bills. I'll go Eagles. I'll go Ravens. I will go Bears. I'll actually go Lions.
I won't go Bears.
It's fair.
Lions, okay.
I mean, things go their way. I could see the Bengals. If that defense locks in this year.
Nope, not seeing the Bengals.
Okay. Patriots could make it back. How many am I at? I don't think that's a very good chance.
But I think we both know the Patriots ain't winning it this year. But
No.
we'll put it at 9. Two more teams. Make it
Again,
more than 10.
they get streaky. Things go their way. Vikings could very well be there.
Nope.
Okay. And last but not least, CJ Stroud's gonna locks in this season.
Yeah, you don't even like CJ Stroud.
Oh, I don't. But
Exactly.
but that doesn't mean he can't lock in this season.
Did you even say the Bills?
Yeah, I
Did
said
you?
the Bills. I did.
Is that one of your first teams? Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a little too blasphemous. But I was gonna say the Cowboys, but I don't even believe that in my heart.
You would never believe that.
But like seriously, I mean, again, I'm not saying that these are gonna happen. They're not favorites, but things go their way. I could see any one of these teams holding up the Lombardi Trophy again. One player or two players have breakout seasons. Like again, let's say C.J. Stroud and Kayshon Boutte become the next hot commodity this season. They already have the defense to win it all. You get offensive production out of that team, they win. Excuse me. Kyler Murray returns to 2021 form. He'll be a top 3 passer by the end of the season, an MVP finalist, and they could easily well hold that trophy when it's all said and done.
I can make these arguments for college football.
I guess that's fair, but
I don't mind your
I
point
couldn't.
that the NFL is a little more open
I couldn't.
than past years, but I can definitely make some arguments of college football and teams winning it that are fringe teams. You know, like that's the thing, right?
Yeah, but I would be shocked if it was anyone besides Texas, Ohio State, Miami, or Georgia. Like, I would be shocked if it was any other team. Because these teams are just so top heavy. Like, I mean, I think those teams should all those teams could easily go undefeated. They'll probably lose one game and then, yeah. I mean, if you want to talk about fringe college football teams, yeah, Alabama.
Out of the 6 teams that are in the top 6 for betting you didn't mention, so.
Well, that's true, but I mean, Alabama could lock in. They could. I guess that would be your, what's it called? That Vikings comparison or that Texans comparison. But like, I don't know. I just feel like in the NFL, it's a lot easier. Again, we've talked about this a lot. It's a lot easier to win one game in the NFL when you're the worst team going up against a good team versus college. I just think the skill gap between a good NFL team and a bad NFL team is not as large as a good college football team and a bad college football team. In fact, we'll go one step further. Well, there's a much larger skill gap between a decent college football, like a mediocre or fringe college football team and a very good college football team than there is a fringe NFL team and a very good NFL team.
I think I could say the same thing about high school football, though, right? I think the gap between a fringe high school football team and a very good high school football team is bigger than the gap between college and bigger than the gap than the NFL, just because there's a lot more players, right? And there's a lot more players.
Right.
So that's why only this amount of players go to college, then this amount of players go to the NFL.
Yeah.
So the skill gap gets closer and closer and closer.
But I guess my point to that would be, why do all of the really good players in college football that are going to go to the NFL, why do they all have to be on 6 teams?
I mean, I always think it's more open than that.
I mean, obviously it is, but again, that's why you see teams like Ohio State, you see teams like Georgia, teams like Texas who consistently have the most players drafted out of every class.
Yeah. You would hate soccer.
Oh, I know.
You would hate soccer.
That's why I don't watch it.
Fair
well,
enough.
that's a reason, but that's it.
Anything else you want to add before we wrap up this episode of Everything We've Agreed?
Not everything, but yes. We're done for the night.
That'll be another episode of Nothing Agreed. Thank you all so much for listening. Let us know about your QB thoughts, of course, still, if you want to see Tua start week 1. Also, let us know the thoughts on college football, Kayshon Boutte, and if you're going to get arrested in East Palestine anytime soon. That's another episode of Nothing Agreed. Thank you all for listening, and peace.